2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Truth Wanted, the show where we talk about what people believe and why. I am your host, ObjectivelyDan, and joining me live in studio tonight, Derek Hawke.
Hello, how you doing?
Those of you who don't know, Derek is a local around here at the Atheist Community of Austin, where this show is hosted at every week, live Fridays at 7 p.m. Central. Derek is a lot of things. He's a co-host of the Atheist Vanguard show.
Correct.
He is a writer, a voice actor, and just like a bunch of other stuff. So kind of tell us a bit more about some of the projects
World
that you
famous.
work on.
World famous.
Yeah, world famous. World famous.
Well, I am a local artiste. First of all, let me say, I am stoked to be here. Do the kids still use that word?
Sure.
Stoked?
I mean, what do you mean? You're one of the kids.
Yeah.
Derek. You're like what, 25, 23?
Like groovy, man.
Yeah, cool.
So I'm a co-host of Atheist Vanguard, where it's a awesome show where we actually tape interviews with normal people going about their normal lives, and we ask them what they believe and why. We don't pressure them at all or question what they do. We just want to get their story, and then we take it back into the studio and we process it. We look at these ideas. We try to understand where they're coming from, why they're coming from. We also try to there's a lot of bad ideas out there, and we try to shine a light on those. There's a particular one that comes to mind, the TFP, which is a Catholic militant group. They were protesting abortion. They're crusaders for Christ, in their own words. Yeah. We just try to put that to the light.
So with Atheist Vanguard, when you take out these interviews from people and you talk about them in studio, are you making final judgment calls as far as this person's belief is wrong, this person's belief is right? Like what's the process there?
So again, we're just trying to explore what they believe and why, and then some of it is pointing out the fallacies and the illogicalness and some of the silliness, and also some of the danger and hate. I don't know how many times where I've had people just say, associate the end of times with the promoting of the gay agenda, or there's no such thing as lesbians being married, or if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell. They love that H word. So again, and we never mock them, and we actually don't really pressure them or push them to account for why. We just want to get their story out, and then we're not actually putting them down when they're not present. We're just exploring those thought processes, and it's really a fascinating and interesting, new take that's unique at the Austin community, Atheist Community of Austin. We don't have, there's a show that none like on any other.
Yeah, and it's cool because you actually go out on the street doing these talks with people and stuff, which again is the only show right here at the ACA that we do that does something like that.
Right.
We talk to people. I mean, a lot of our ACA shows here we do call-ins where we talk to people, live in the studio, but that's a bit different than having kind of a one-on-one where you get a little bit more information from people when you're talking to them face to face, that you wouldn't get over a phone call. So that's
exactly
cool. I think the idea is really neat. I would love to do something like that with Truth Wanted one day.
Yeah.
I would love
there is some crossover because we get a lot of people who are just obsessed with demons, obsessed with ghosts, and they're just convinced that they are involved in this spiritual warfare, this constant warfare, and it's always interesting to see, what's going on in their head and why they've come to these conclusions. So it's always a really interesting time, and no interview is the same as the other.
Yeah, that's really cool. I just want to remind folks that this is a live call-in show, so if you see the number down there at the bottom of the screen, you're just joining us. Some of you guys might be joining me because I just made an appearance on Atheist Experience for the first time last Sunday, so if you're coming from that, welcome. Welcome to the show. It's pretty fun around here on the Friday night crew.
You killed it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you killed it. You just like a killer hawk.
Well,
you killed it.
He's saying that because that is Derek's Twitter right now, Hawke 1.
Correct. Yep.
with
That's
an
also my
Amy
YouTube channel.
Yes, and your YouTube channel. Let's talk about your YouTube channel a little bit. What do you do with that?
Yeah, so I have about like 1,200 subscribers, and I do narrations of creepypastas.
Yeah. So for those who aren't familiar, what are creepypastas?
Creepypastas are basically modern day horror stories and even urban legends type thing, new or old existing ones. The big ones that come to mind are Slender Man, Goat Man, Dog Man, Jeff the Killer.
Yeah, that kind of
all
stuff.
that good stuff. And it's interesting how it came about, because it came about from all the chat room type thing, and it was basically creepypasta comes from the word cut and paste. So it was basically cut and paste.
So the original word is copy pasta.
Copy pasta, correct.
And the idea is that it's like a combination of the words copy and paste.
Yep.
Because these were stories that people would copy and paste around the internet, and a lot of them took kind of a horror kind of tone to them.
Yes.
So they called them creepypasta. So that's the etymology there. Of those words.
And there's been a huge evolution of the storytelling format. At first, it was noted that they were just mostly really poorly written, just really formulaic and just really just not very creative.
Sure.
And there's been a huge evolution. There's a creepypasta wiki which goes through a very stringent approval process where these have to be well written stories that make sense and actually people are interested in telling. I have about probably 35 stories that are on a creepypasta under my writer's tag. And so my YouTube channel is primarily that, but it was also, I initially started it to promote my own works, trying to get that kind of publicity of my own stories. And so I would do a lot. I actually did a lot of, I narrated my own stories, and I also did a lot of animations as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really, really cool. Yep. So one of the reasons why I thought Derek would be a great guest for this week is not only is he, an ACA local here, we love him here, but also you're very familiar with just urban legends and just kind of, the tales that people tell on the internet in general, right? And I'm personally really interested in how these kinds of stories actually influence the actions of people. Like one example we were talking about before the show was a few years ago, there was a story of a girl who killed another girl. I think they were both like around 12 years old, right? And she cited her reasons was because like Slender Man, this creepypasta character you've probably seen in some stories, and there was a movie that was really bad, and the video game, of course, that really popularized it as well. But it started off as a creepypasta. Yeah. And
actually, no, it didn't.
But it started off on the Something Awful forums as like a creepypasta,
it started out as a Photoshop contest.
Right, yeah.
Whereas they wanted for you to take a picture and Photoshop it into this creepy thing. And so they took pictures of like kids playing in a playground in the 1920s, kind of like that sepia type of color, that yellowish brown color. And they inserted this character. And from there, that's when the story evolved. And the mythos, which the mythos is kind of very disjointed and changes from,
different writers' perspective.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So, and that's interesting because, there's a whole story with this, right? With how these stories are created. And we all know that they're stories, but yet somehow, at least allegedly, this was a story that at least was in part influenced in like someone's murder, essentially. Yeah. And that's obviously the most probably the most public case I've known about this stuff. But I imagine that, media influences people in some way or another, right? So it's like, obviously there's been debates for years about, how violent video games are. And there's all that stuff. But, I mean, there's definitely going to be a correlation at some point between what you read on a screen and what you see, what translates to real life, right?
This is just the modern evolution of storytelling. It's no different from the story. I'm sure you heard of the story of the couple that was in their car and they hear a noise and then they drive off and there's a hook hanging in there. Yeah. There's in Texas we have the La Llorona, we have the Chupacabra, and people are convinced that these things are real. We have alien abductions, we have demon possessions, we have shadow people associated with sleep paralysis.
And here's what's funny, because you'd think in the age of the internet where we have the most, the best communication technology in the history of ever, right? That we would be able to sort some of this stuff out and realize, this was true, this wasn't true, and kind of collectively decide, how that works. But it hasn't been that simple. If anything, some have argued this has been worse because with places like the internet, you now have fake stories, fake sources that people will reference.
Correct. Yep.
That have credibility in the eyes of people. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't have a computer at my house for a while, until it was at least a preteen, I guess. So if I wanted to go, I'd go to like the public library or something, right? And so like, whether or not if I heard something was true, like one rumor I had when I was a kid, right, was you could unlock Sonic the Hedgehog in Super Smash Brothers Melee, and you got to shoot all the things at the credits, right? Like this was something that I believed that I just thought I couldn't do, and I couldn't verify because I didn't know how to look that stuff up. That's a belief I had for years.
Have you heard of the creepypastas about haunted games?
Oh yeah, tons of those. But like it's just one of those things where if I didn't know how to look that up. Another was I didn't have the access to that. And that story where you could unlock this character in this game is kind of like a creepypasta in the sense it's something that gets copy and pasted and sent around to people. And so, like, the trouble comes with verification, I think, with a lot of the stuff. And some of it is a bit more obvious. Like, Slender Man, you can very clearly find the origins of Slender Man. Like, that's not a question. But some stuff that's kind of older, it was before the internet, like Bigfoot especially, Goat Man, this kind of stuff, that's a bit harder to kind of pin down for some people.
There's some reason there's just innate desire for us to scare each other, or be scared, and that's just what this is kind of doing. And it's in that storytelling format. I mean, horror stories will never go away. They hopefully will get better. But it's like these characters, and it's interesting because you have very well-known characters such as Freddy Krueger, such as Jason, that is not true. But with these creepypastas or these urban legends, there is an element of is this true or not? And it's that mouth-to-mouth relaying of stories that we're known for.
Hold on, mouth to ear, right? Okay, mouth to mouth story. See, that's a little too.
Okay,
I don't know you that well. You know what I mean? Like that's cool, but
I'm hung up on the story. I'm thinking I'm stuck on a human centipede.
Right.
Well, that's mouth to something else, but we're not going to go there because this is a family TV.
This is not. Hey, clearly you haven't listened to the last couple episodes of the show. This is definitely not family oriented anymore. I don't know if it ever was, but
well, I'm innocent. I'm trying to protect my my virginity.
Jesus. Okay, moving on. We want to talk about your book really quickly as well. You got a copy of it here?
Wow, I have it right here.
Wow.
So this is my first book, and it's actually a book I contributed to. It's a anthology of over 100 authors. I wrote, and it is a creepypasta.
Yeah.
And it's an original. You can buy this book and. Forgive me for all the other authors.
What's the name of the book so the folks at home that are listening?
It's called Monsternomicon.
Monsternomicon.
And it is a story I wrote called Giggle. And then the second book I wrote was called Modern Dread Neuro Horror. And is actually a continuation of this story. It's one of my favorite stories. And it's about witchcraft and witches and the chosen one and prophecies. And so us atheists, I take a lot of inspiration from the Bible because the Bible, to me, is a wonderful source of literature and inspiration on stories.
Yeah. I mean, nobody can deny there's stories in there. And a lot of course, modern literature is influenced by some of the archetypes that were kind of established in the Bible. Whether or not they were the first documents to do that, we don't have enough records to show. But they're definitely some of the oldest that we have for some of this stuff.
So I've actually spent a lot of time trying to tie in the stories that I wrote to how my present atheism, or how I describe myself as an atheist. Because there is actually a correlation. Now, these stories that I've written, I've written stories about a kid being kidnapped by a cult, a schizophrenic kid who sees demon little cherubs, and these are actually very autobiographical stories. Now, I'm not going to say that I was kidnapped by a cult or saw the little cherub demons, but they're very symbolic of growing up in very religious households. The very first story I wrote came to me when I was 10 years old, sitting in church, trying to comprehend omniscience and omnipresence. And this theme just kept stuck with me till finally, 30 years later, I wrote a story about it. So my next project is actually compiling all these stories and really relating it to how these things helped me overcome, because I had a very abusive type of upbringing when it came to religion. It basically taught how to hate myself and how to hate others, and there's very little love, and it was a love masked with conditions. And as I progressed out of this religion into more of a agnostic stance and then atheism, I had a lot of hate for God, and it took me a long time to get over this hate over something that I don't believe exists. And then also trying to communicate that with other people, because a long time I had disdain for people who believed that too, and ridicule. Yeah. I was an internet troll for the longest time. I got joy out of putting people in their place and realized how unproductive that was, and how I was sabotaging, what the mission that I am on now, whereas trying to help people understand what they believe, why they believe it, and how it impacts themselves and others.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, some research I've seen is just if you're presenting information in the form of a narrative, it can be much more influential on people's ideas and much more convincing than necessarily just presenting the facts, straight up. Like, when we talk about, climate change, for example, a lot of presentations can be more effective if we're talking about the consequences of these things in terms that you and I would understand exactly, like how would it affect our local environment. Whereas, if we're just talking in grand schemes and just looking at charts and numbers, that's not always going to be as convincing with folks. And so it's kind of this visceral storytelling, especially if we're talking about related experiences, I think that's got to be beneficial for people.
Yeah. I've written stories where basically, again, I felt like a victim for most of my life. And one of the most therapeutic stories I wrote was about a kid who was stalked by this demon, and basically the end result of the story was him learning how to not be a victim anymore, and actually putting this dark spirit in its place, and he actually became almost like a superhero type thing, because he took this power that he gained and was helping other people. And it was a lot of people got back to me, and it was like, I'm in abusive relationships, and this just inspired me. Another story I wrote was it could be interpreted in two ways. One, that somebody was having a shower demon assault them, and the second was about repressed memories and having these repressed memories emerge, and it was about male sexual abuse, which is something that unfortunately I experienced and was trying to process. And I got a lot of feedback from a lot of male viewers, and they said this was the most uncomfortable story that I've ever heard or read, and thank you for writing it.
Yeah, stories are powerful things, aren't they? Yeah. For sure. And it's no wonder why, when we talk about religious beliefs, why so many people draw from stories to inspire their own lives, both good and bad, or actions, right? Like, and even, us as secular people, we still do the same thing. And we may not be as dogmatic as what we say. We're not saying like, Derek's writing is absolute canon of reality, and so like we need to follow Derek's advice or else we can't do anything done. No, we're a bit more freeform than that. But it is something that interesting to think about how human cultures, for pretty much the recorded history of ever, have always been writing stories, and using that.
And I tend to my style was some of it can be considered extremely blasphemous, but I hold a sense of respect for people's beliefs. I don't just go in there and say God is evil, the devil is good, blah 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 blah. I explore. These are very complicated characters that are more human-like than the religions tend to. This perfect being. No, they're very flawed beings, and those makes more interesting characters.
I agree. Yeah, I super agree. We have some calls here tonight, and I want to go ahead and get to some of these. You ready for that, Derek?
Awesome, yeah.
Cool. Let's go ahead and go to our first call of the night. This is John in Missouri. Hey, John, how's it going?
It's going well, thank you.
Great. So I have a note here from our call screener saying that you're a polytheist who wants to discuss the source of Jesus Christ's power.
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit more about what you mean?
I believe that his power came from his humanity, and that he was a white wizard or a soulbender.
Oh, what does, okay, those are two different terms. I'm not sure I understand the meanings of what is a white wizard to you, and what is a soulbender?
So a white wizard is one that does white magic.
Okay.
He protects himself and others from evil, like demons.
Okay.
Or the devil.
Okay.
And I believe that Yahweh is the deceiver, the teller of lies.
Okay. So Yahweh is the deceiver, the teller of lies. Is there a Satan in your worldview as well?
I believe there is also a Satan, yes.
Okay. And is he kind of the opposite of most people's interpretations as well? Is he kind of a figure of endearment or?
I don't feel comfortable speaking on Satan because I haven't studied him thoroughly.
Sure, sure. Can you tell me about the soul bender part as well? You said Jesus was a soul bender. What does that mean?
So I think in secular terms you would describe it as influence. But I think that his influence is beyond just secular means.
Okay.
So more than just being charismatic?
Yes, I think it's more than just being charismatic.
Okay.
Similar to, like in Star Wars, when they're like, these are not the droids you are looking for. I feel like Jesus Christ could do a similar thing to people.
Okay, so Jesus is a white wizard. Why?
How come he didn't go, you will not hang me on that cross?
Well, no. Well, what I really want to is okay. So where does this belief come from that Jesus is a white wizard? I don't think the Bible ever explicitly says that. So what?
Because
where
the
is
Bible is full of lies.
Okay, so
Because Yahweh is the teller of lies.
So where are you getting your truth about Jesus from?
It is revealed to me through mathematics and symbology.
Mathematics and symbology. So through mathematics and symbology, you've been able to determine that Jesus is a white wizard.
Yes, because I am too.
Oh, cool. Okay, so wait, what is that? So wait, what can you do to show us that you're a white wizard?
On December 15th, I'm going to reveal myself to the world.
Oh, that's okay. What does that mean?
Can you put that in your calendar, please?
It's in my calendar too. Excellent.
Awesome.
Oh,
I've
we'll
already
put.
influenced you, sir.
I see.
Welcome to my sphere of
Touche,
influence.
my friend, touche.
So okay, well, so all right. So let's back it up here. So what is that? When you say you're going to reveal yourself to the world, what does that mean in the most explicit terms possible?
Do you have access to Discord right now?
I could probably pull it up here, but we wouldn't be able to do anything with linking it to the show right now.
Can I ask a question?
Well, I want to see what
Yeah,
he's doing.
certainly.
I just want to ask what does it mean to be a wizard? What can you do?
Well, yeah, I think he's going to tell us a bit about that, right? Yeah.
So, miracles that I have, or some people would call them miracles, I call them spells. I've performed 3 in my lifetime so far.
Wow.
One of them, I made an object disappear. The second one, I turned water into wine. And the third one, I turned a stick into a rock.
Okay.
Okay.
That's cool. Do you have any video of that?
I do not. And I
Okay.
don't know if it's possible to take video of it. Also, the issue with these 3 spells is, one, I was very young when I cast the first one, so I can't recreate being very young. That's impossible.
Okay.
The second one, I was very drunk,
is
and I'm trying to stay sober.
Is being young a requirement for some of these spells too?
It's just I don't know yet
Okay.
how to recreate that circumstance as an adult.
Okay.
So,
What's also
have you tried
basically,
to
I'm looking for a
recruit?
teacher.
yeah, and I want to know what's preventing. And I'll let Derek ask some questions too. But what's preventing you from doing a miracle on camera? Like we're already doing magic at this point, right? Like we're already doing the impossible. Why is something as normal as recording something not possible for that?
It might be possible. I'm
Okay.
just not ready to be recorded yet.
Okay. Interesting. So like what's happening December 15th?
Well, if I told you, that would ruin the surprise.
Well, hold on. Whoa. Because, this is an issue with like prophecy and prediction stuff in general, right? Like you could say, oh, I'm going to reveal myself. And you're telling me that, this is a miracle that's happening. But unless you can tell me in explicit terms what exactly is going to happen, I really don't have any way to verify, any kind of ability that you're telling me right now. At least if you're claiming that you're going to be able to predict something, which I'm not sure if that's what you're saying.
Okay.
But
I'm going to post a picture of my calendar on the Discord.
okay, we have a
So while I'm
live
messing
chat
with my
here
phone-
on YouTube right now. If there's a link, if you want to put it on there for the folks watching that.
I'm more comfortable posting it on Discord.
Okay,
I'll
can't.
try to get it in both places.
I can't put any video or audio on the current feed right now. But in the after show, which by the way, we're doing this thing now every week where we do talk on Discord after the show. So maybe we can take a look at whatever you got for us. I'd be interested in seeing whatever that is.
Live stream chat.
So what is a white wizard?
Yeah, let's go back to that.
So, I guess in more colloquial terms, I would describe myself as an exorcist.
Okay, so we have demons now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Demons are cool. Okay.
So there are demons in the world that you are able to exorcise from, I'm presuming, people.
I believe I have performed at least 2 exorcisms.
Okay.
So tell us about that. I mean,
Yeah.
what happened? Because you said you believe, so it sounds like you're not entirely sure.
Well, I mean, I don't interact directly with demons. So the first exorcism I performed in Austin, Texas, on my way actually to visit the ACA library, I got distracted.
Okay.
So I met a man in the street in the middle of the night, and I laid my hands on him, and he confessed all of his sins to me. And I think it changed his life forever. I think there were demons trapped inside of his mind that he let out. And I think he's now free from the demons that lived inside his own mind.
So how do we know that somebody is possessed by demons?
I can see it when I look into their eyes.
Is there any way
I
that
don't know how.
is there a way that Derek or I could be able to tell whether somebody has, demons in them or not?
I actually think that you might be able to, Dan,
Ooh.
because I think you might have the gift.
I have the wait. What is the gift? Hold on, I want to know about that.
I would think that you were demon possessed personally.
Me? Okay, but no, I'm gifted, Derek. Obviously. No, seriously though, what is the gift?
So, in colloquial terms, Harry Potter, there are muggles and there are magical folk. I think you might have magical blood, Dan.
Ah, shit. Fuck. Wait, how do you know I have magical blood?
Because you've told me that the Holy Spirit has moved you.
Yeah, so I would describe previous experiences in my life through the kind of Christian vocabulary that was given to me at the time. I don't know if in my current state, as kind of a more secular person, if that would be the appropriate language to use, maybe what I've experienced. Right? Because I think what I experienced could be explainable very much in plain scientific terms or through plain physical reality. I'm not sure that there is anything that I experienced that had to be supernatural as, its best, most explanatory explanation, right?
Well, I don't think the supernatural is... I mean, science and the supernatural are at odds because science is based on the 5 senses and the supernatural exists outside of those 5 senses.
Wait, does it though? Because if you're saying that you're able to see demons, like that's using your senses, right? Or if we're talking about like miracles that you say
But
you
I don't
saw
think a camera could see it. I don't think my eyes work the same way a camera does.
Well, why couldn't a camera see it, but an eye could?
Because my eyes are magic, and the camera is not.
Wait, so can non-magical people not see the miracles that you're doing? Does everybody have magic eyes?
So
You do.
Yes.
I postulated that he might. I'd have to meet you in person to confirm.
Okay. Wait, I want to answer that question though. So like if your magic eyes are able to see specific things, does that mean there's a class of people who cannot see certain things?
Yes.
Okay. So like the miracle you described earlier, like you turned, was it a stick into a rock or maybe it was the other way around?
Yes.
Okay, you turn a stick into a rock. So if, let's say Derek falls into this class of people that can't, does that mean he can't see that event happen?
I'm not sure what he would have seen if he was there.
Well, so like could he have held a stick before and then held a rock afterwards?
Could he have held a stick before?
Yeah, would I have seen a stick and then afterwards seen a rock?
I believe if you had been there, that's what you would have seen.
Okay.
Now, how did you perform this? Was there incantations? Was there a spell? Was there any kind of verbal command? Or was there any potions?
So I believe that... Actually, I think I just witnessed the spell. I think someone else may have cast it.
Okay.
I was in an enchanted forest at the time.
Gotcha.
An enchanted forest. John, I don't know. John, I got to know, like, are you trolling me right now? I just want, like, for serious.
No, I'm being very genuine.
Okay.
I sincerely believe in magic.
Okay. So, like, what's an enchanted forest looks like? Where are those at?
This specific one was in Glen Burnie, Maryland, but I think they're everywhere.
Okay. Okay, so you're at least familiar with the Austin area. Where is my nearest enchanted forest?
Hippie Hollow.
You're probably right.
The Cesar Chavez Library?
The Cesar Chavez Library?
Yeah, there's a small little grassy area there with a tree.
All right,
I think
Atheist
that's a magical
Vanguard.
tree.
You know what to do. You got to go to the library.
What? Well, but I can't see anything.
Oh, that's true. He doesn't have the magic.
I don't have the magic eyes.
I'll have to be there.
I don't have the
see
magic
cement.
eyes.
Like, what happens in an enchanted forest that makes them better than regular forests?
Other wizards have cast spells on the forest before they left.
Ah, shit. Like, what kind of spells?
It depends on the forest.
Okay,
And it depends on the wizard.
Do you know what the ones there at Cesar Chavez?
There was a bunch of sticks that are now rocks.
Oh, that could be. I don't know. I want to know if I go to Cesar Chavez, what's going to happen? Is my facial hair going to grow out more than normal? Like, is it,
If you go there alone, I have no idea what's going to happen. But I think if we went there together, I could convince you that God really exists.
I wouldn't go with you there alone, John, but maybe if I went with the Atheist Vanguard crew,
You're on your own on this
I'd be
one.
down.
You're on your own with this one.
I'd be happy for you to have as many escorts as you need to feel comfortable.
Yeah, no, for sure. But okay, so like, man, we've gone through so many stuff here, and like, this is so fucking fascinating. This is really cool. I've never had somebody come in and call and say that they're a wizard.
You're welcome.
I also think you are a wizard, for what it's worth.
God, okay, so all right, help me out, John. How do I enhance my wizarding abilities? What do I gotta do?
First, you need a wand.
Well, do I need a wand? I don't know. What are the rules?
Meditation is a very important part of it.
Okay.
So I can teach you a mantra if you'd like.
Teach me a mantra. Let's go for it.
Namaste Satyam. Not today, Ryuk.
Not today.
Namaste Satyam.
Not today.
That means hello, truth.
Okay. Hello, truth.
And not today, Ryuk is telling the god of death that today is not the day.
Not today. Okay.
That's
you might have to write that down for
That's
me.
Klingon.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, Japanese. Ryuk is Japanese, I believe.
Okay. Well, all right. So I will, you'll have to send me a guide or something on how to enhance my wizarding powers. And I'll do, if there's some way where we could do some wizarding stuff over the phone or like through the call-in show
I'm
here.
on Discord all the time. We've connected on Discord. We can talk more on Discord.
Yeah, that's true. But anything we could do for the show, though, you think, as far as like, what kind of...
Well, anything I could do on the show could be explained by a computer hacker is the problem with that.
So wait, can you affect the technology of this place?
I can't, but I have a friend that's a computer hacker that could.
Oh,
but
well,
I don't
meant
want
like
to damage the show.
Well, I want to know like magic stuff, dude. Like what can you?
Yeah. Magic and technology are diametrically opposed. I can't do. Well, I might be able to do magic over the phone, but I'd have to impose my will on you, and I don't want to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't
Out of
know.
respect for your personal autonomy, I don't want to do any magic over the phone.
I appreciate that. What if I gave you my consent, though?
There's too many people listening.
Why? So wait. Why does that matter?
I don't want to impose my will on anyone. I want them to be able to make a free choice.
Okay.
Well, you're making a free choice.
Yeah. What if I'm telling you I'm making the free choice right now?
But everybody listening might not be.
Well, why does everybody listening matter? You're saying I wouldn't make the choice if other people weren't watching?
No. I might. The way it works is if I were to verbally impose my will on someone, everyone listening would be affected.
Oh, okay. Wait, even on the recording? Like even if somebody's listening?
So, yes.
So they don't have to be watching the show. They can just listen to this show, which is available on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts.
Shameless plug. I love you, Dad.
It would affect that, right? I mean, all right. Well,
it's not time for that.
Because it's
not time for me to do magic.
All right. Okay, John.
But
That's December 15th.
John, okay. Let's get back to this on December 15th. And John, you got to contact me or you got to get in touch with me after the show so we can figure out what's going on.
Okay. So I'll talk to you at the latest again on Friday, December the 20th.
Okay. And tell you what, I'm going to put you back on hold here in just a sec and you can get some contact info from our call screeners in the back here, and let's keep in touch about this because I'll hold you to this, John. We'll figure out what will happen on December 15th. And
it's about to get interesting, Dan.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna be fucking Harry Potter. All right, this is it. This is my
I'm
destiny.
James Potter.
You see
Welcome
this
to the new
fucking
world,
scar
friend.
up here, right? I'll make one later. It's gonna happen.
Have you seen the thing I posted in Discord?
I haven't looked at Discord today. But after the show, we'll
connect.
We'll take a look and we'll do that. Anyway, John, we have some other callers I want to get to, but thank you so much
certainly.
for calling.
Thank you.
I'd love to talk to you more about the wizarding world. Next time you get a chance.
The wizarding world of Dan and John.
I'm down.
We'll be expecting your owl.
For sure. Okay, I'm gonna put you back on hold here, John. thanks again for calling in about that. I sincerely hope John is sincere in his beliefs. If not, that's really sad. I don't want this to be a troll. I want this to be super real. I want to know if I'm magical, dude.
You are magical.
Thanks, Derek.
I can see the sparkle in your eye.
He could see it in my eyes, dude.
could.
I do have nice colored eyes, I think. Maybe that's what it is. You know, like, you ever heard about the, what's it called? Was it the Rainbow Children? You know what I'm talking about? I think in the 90s. Yeah, like the Aurora kids. What are they called? Indigo children. The Indigo children. Somebody said I looked like an indigo child one time. And I didn't know how to
I would go with more Child of the Corn. Malachi.
No, dude, like, listen, here's...
You
honestly,
look like a Malachi.
a Malachi?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
If somebody can show me some magic on this show, I'll be amazed. I want to see that happen. I want to know if I'm magical. Well, look at that.
I can't do it right.
There you go. One time, I had Matt on here, and I tried to do a card trick with him, and he just like... He knew exactly what I was doing right away because he's the real wizard if you think about it.
Matt's a real wizard.
Yeah, and that's true. You can. I'm a. he's doing some shit here. He's here in the studio right now, just glaring at me as usual, and giving me a thumbs up too. So anyway, we got some other calls here I want to get to, and talk to more about. Let's go with Stan in Pennsylvania. Stan's been waiting for a bit. Hey, Stan, how's it going?
Stanley.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right, Stan. How are you doing?
Good. Well, after that last call, this is going to be really boring.
Oh, no, that's not true. Come on. I think your topic is interesting, but go ahead and explain what you want to talk about.
Okay, I think that guy's been playing too much Dungeons and Dragons. But anyway, I'll go on. I'm not going to say any more about that. The reason I'm calling today is, okay, I'm an atheist, so I don't have any problem with that part of it. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I'm calling about is, the thing that got me started on this was I listened to a lot of YouTube videos, and today I happened to be seeing a YouTube video with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Richard Dawkins titled The Poetry of Science. And this kind of got me thinking about this. Anyway, you know how a lot of theists or religionists or whatever you want to call them, they'll say, well, atheism is just another religion. And now we know that that's not true because in the sense that religion is the worship of a deity, I mean, atheism is just the opposite of that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I can understand what they're talking about, and I think I know what they mean by that. And I'd like to just give you my little opinion of why I think that way.
Yeah, okay, give your take, and then I'd love to hear Derek's take, and then my take.
Oh, I have a take.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an old saying: if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, the thing is, religionists or theists, they get their ideas and their authority from the Bible and from their religious leaders like priests, ministers, rabbis, etc. And we as atheists, even though there is no scientific authority per se,
well,
there are people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Lawrence Krauss, people like that whenever they say something, most people aren't going to say, oh, well, no, you're not right. But anyway, we're pretty much heavily dependent on, as atheists, we're pretty much dependent on scientists for the things that we think are true.
That's true for many atheists. Of course, atheism is a broad term. I think it's important to make the distinction that there's a lot of people who, if we checked off all the boxes of, their lack of belief in God and everything, we would call them an atheist, but they might not call themselves an atheist, and vice versa. There's some people who say that we aren't atheists for some reason. So, yeah, in a general sense, I would say for the folks here at the Atheist Community of Austin, we definitely rely on scientists who make published works. We rely on that research to form a lot of our opinions and beliefs on things. I'd say that's totally fair. But that's not intrinsic to being an atheist, I'd say. And this is probably where your point is going with, Stan. It's like there's nothing. There's no book compelling me to make the decisions that I make as far as what kind of beliefs I hold. There's suggestions and there's opinions. Yeah. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm the one I recognize that I have at least the autonomy enough to make those decisions on what I believe, or if, belief might not be a choice. But in the sense that I don't have a book, like I said, I don't have a tenet, I don't have a dogma that I'm following to consider myself an atheist. There's nothing that I have to follow to play that role. My atheist label is a strict label that I use for myself to describe, a small portion of beliefs or lack thereof that I have, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The same with me.
Yeah.
Okay. So, a lot of these so-called flat earthers, they'll use parts of the Bible to justify saying that the earth is flat.
Yes.
We all laugh at them, but anyway, and then people like Lawrence Krauss comes along and they say that the universe is flat. Nobody bats an eye at that. And you can verify that. You can go to YouTube and search Lawrence Krauss flat universe, and you'll see what I'm talking about there. But anyway, the video that I was talking about where Neil deGrasse Tyson and Richard Dawkins were talking, Tyson and he are discussing, Dawkins is asking him some questions about where are the limits of the universe, and what would somebody who is sitting on what is supposed to be the limit of the universe looking the other direction, what would they say? And Tyson haws around, and he says that, and I'm paraphrasing this. You can look this video up if you want. Again, it's The Poetry of Science. Okay, but Tyson says that at some point we just have to abandon our senses when it comes to mathematics and science, because there's some things about math and science that just aren't going to make sense to the average person.
Intuitively, yeah.
Right, intuitively. So the way I'm tying all this together is, if I abandon my senses, and another thing I just want to mention is how Tyson wrote this book that says the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. That's one of his.
I like that quote.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the problem with that, the way I see it, is that if I abandon my senses, there wouldn't be any reason for me not to think that gods exist, because that's exactly the same thing it tells you to do in the Bible when it talks about having faith.
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely so there is this idea of, at some level, there's going to be things that scientific consensus comes to that we as lay people may not understand. And even some scientists may not understand, right? Like, there's lots of scientists right now that don't, most scientists that study the origins of the universe, for example, don't know exactly what.
But there's a big difference. I mean, because we have data, evidence, and hypotheses that speculate of this, and plus, again, we're talking about abandoning our senses, because we can't see a black hole, we can't see light bending, we can't see fabrics of universe dipping into pools. So we have to assume, based upon the math and whatnot. The difference between that and faith is that you're accepting this conclusion based upon no evidence whatsoever. If I don't understand it, it must be God. Whereas in science, it's like, well, I have these proposals based upon the data that we got. This is possibly what happened. I mean, we've never seen a complete rotation of Pluto, but we know based upon the math, based upon the evidence and a model that works with gravity, that we know that Pluto will be in this part of the sky at this time of the year, based upon sound evidence and a model of science that works.
And just to clarify with this, because I think people do get confused, we are still using our senses to like look at this evidence in the same way that's like, look, like I can't see right now with my eyes that there's tiny organisms all over this table. But if I'm using a tool like a microscope, I'm still able to see that. And same thing with stuff that we're getting from space, these kinds of electromagnetic waves and stuff.
Right.
And, you made the example of, light bending in a black hole and stuff like that. We're still using tools to make those observations, which are still, in a sense, like using senses. Like they're using their own kinds of measurements. It's just outside of the scope of human potential. We're putting it into languages and messages that humans understand.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did want to quickly go back to the original statement about saying how atheism is a religion and how we respond to that. I've always found this approach really interesting because it's kind of like a theist is saying, well, you're just as blind as me, therefore you're just like me. And my response has always been, well, kind of playing the same game to them, saying, well, technically you're an atheist too when it comes to Krishna, when it comes to Buddha, when it comes to Confucius, when it comes to Muhammad, you're an atheist too. They don't like that.
Yeah, on some level, they don't have a belief in other people's gods, right? But here's the other thing, too. It's like, okay, let's say atheism is religion. So what?
So what?
If you're coming at me, you obviously believe a religion is true at some level, right? If you're asking these kinds of questions, then that shouldn't bother you then. Right. The fact that atheism is,
And my atheism is such a small part of who I am and what I do. It's such a small, tiny part. Humanism is mostly where I'm coming from. Yeah. And the activism that I do and the work that I do with the Atheist Vanguard. It's humanism. It's making this place better for us and, through humane means.
Yeah. The conflation of this idea of, because I go to a community center every week where I make a show is just like, it's just like going to church on Sundays. It's like, well, just because I'm a human being who organizes in community, that doesn't constitute a religion either, right? Like some people make that distinction as well. Or, even talking about atheism is like spreading the gospel. Like, well, no, it's like these are issues and topics that I'm interested in. You can have interest in topics without it being a religion, right? Otherwise, everything is religious.
Now, when you were still a Christian, was this a common phrase? It was like, I'm not religious. I have Jesus.
I have a relationship with Jesus.
I have
Absolutely.
a relationship
all
with
the
Jesus.
time. I heard that this week even. Yeah. So that's just playing with words. It's whatever. So
okay, I'm just going to say one more little thing here.
Of course, Stan. Of course.
All right. So way back years ago, the Islamic or Muslim community, Baghdad used to be pretty much the center of science. And then this one Muslim come along, I can't remember his name, and he was a cleric or something. Tyson talks about him sometimes, but said something about it's a sin or the Muslims should not play with numbers anymore. And that pretty much put an end to anybody from that part of the world participating in any kind of serious science. And I'm just wondering, this is just my own little uneducated speculation, I guess you'd say, but I wonder if he ran across something like that himself that he couldn't make sense of and just decided that he was going to tell everybody else that they shouldn't fool with it either because it's going to lead you in a direction that you really shouldn't go. So yeah. Anyway, that's my take on that. I'm going to go ahead and hang up and let you guys talk to people.
Well, Stan, thanks again for calling in.
Thank you.
And it's a good topic to bring up. I hope to hear from you again soon, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Yeah, it's a common complaint. I hear it from people. And actually, I was talking to somebody, this was 2 weeks ago. I can't remember if I talked about this before. I don't think I did. A girl was asking me, she knew that I had a show here at the Atheist Community of Austin and stuff, and she was like, so, like, as an atheist, like, is there, like, a book that you read? Like, is there, like, what do you do? And there's a part of me that thought, oh, she's joking. No, she was actually genuinely curious because it's hard to imagine a community that talks so much about religion that doesn't do religious things, right? Like in the typical sense.
Well, and it's really funny how they try to correlate, atheism with religious dogma and religious establishment. A really common argument you'll hear is like, well, you have faith.
Right. Yeah, that's another one too.
Don't you have faith that the lights will turn on? Don't you have faith that the sun will come up and set? And I think it's just really a misunderstanding of those type of things.
My response to that is I have a belief for sure, and that belief can be supported or unsupported by evidence, by what we find around us.
Here's another one. You're atheist. You don't believe in nothing.
Oh, yeah. Classic stuff.
Where do your morals come from?
Where do your morals come from? It's just nowhere, I guess. I guess they just, exist in a vacuum. No, but seriously, I mean, like, these are all common things that we talk about and we can talk about here all day. But there's other callers who want to talk about some other stuff, so I definitely want to give those guys a chance to talk here. And let's go to Rick in California. Hey, Rick, you are live on Truth Wanted. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, Dan? What's up, Derek? How's it going, guys?
What's up,
Dude,
brother?
It's a chill night. It's November 8th.
Not December 20th.
Not December. December 15th.
December
15th.
We just started November, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
What you got for us, brother?
Hey, well, look, I just had a quick question. I guess, I grew up Christian, was born in it. I mean, I guess how people would translate how I became an atheist, I guess what I'm trying to say is I just came across a video and just started watching from there, and then just one thing after another just started making sense. And I just all of a sudden, just one day, I just said, wait, is there a God? Well, I mean, bottom line, my question is, so I pretty much came to this point where ever since I was younger and just being younger, you hear the when preachers and pastors, I grew up Pentecostal. So, I mean, the rules there were just really extreme. But one of the things that they would preach is, for example, like shellfish. The Bible says we can't eat shellfish. And you ask them, well, why do we still eat shellfish if the Bible says not to? And their argument is that's the Old Testament. And then, so my question is, I always had this feeling that tithing was probably a little bit immoral, I guess, in the Christian church. I always felt like it was. And now that I'm an atheist, I definitely look at it like that's very immoral because, particular pastors will actually get on the pulpit and preach like you should be tithing, you should be doing this because I'm gonna give an account to God. And I'm going to account for your soul. And it's just so confusing, especially being part of the Christian church. It's like, well, God knows everything anyway. Why do you have to give an account for me?
Can I ask you a question?
That was my question.
Can I ask you a question real quick? What does God need with a dollar? What does God need with a starship?
Well, here's
I agree. Oh, okay, I thought you were asking me.
No. Here's the take on it that I have. So growing up, I spent some time in both the Methodist and Baptist church. And what's interesting about the Baptist church is that if you're a member of the Baptist church, you are kind of invited to their, I forget what they call it, but basically their meetings that they have where they talk about the financials of the church. And they actually talk about, okay, what are we doing with this money? Where is this budget going? You can actually vote on issues and stuff. And other denominations, this is a privilege that you have too, as long as even if you're a kid. And at our church, as long as you were baptized and you're a member of the church, you could do it. So kids could be voting on some of these issues and stuff like that. So that's kind of different from a lot of the structure that people traditionally think about when they're talking about finances in the church. They're thinking, oh, it's going to go in the pastor's pockets and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's definitely a thing. Do not get me wrong. That is absolutely a thing that happens. But a lot of times, if we're looking at churches on kind of the local level and how they're servicing a community, I don't think most pastors are making crazy amounts of money with this kinds of stuff. And so as an atheist, I personally don't try to donate to any churches.
Right.
And that's not a hate against what any kind of church is doing in a community or local areas, but I know that some of that money is at least going to be teaching beliefs that I just don't believe in.
Yeah. It was an interesting story. This actually came up. I was actually a human lab rat, where you go and do clinical studies and they pay you to test this drugs. And a lot of people that are in these programs actually do this for a living. And there was just one gentleman explaining his situation, and he goes, oh, and for a key to be successful, you have to tithe. And he was telling this other individual in a way that it was like required that if you wanted to receive blessings from God, you must give. And this is, to me, it's really a sad display of indoctrination that they've tied this act of tithing to your salvation.
Yes.
This is the scam artist portion of it, because I believe that, it's like, for me to be in the good graces of God, I must give 10% of my salary, which is ridiculous. Whereas, and that's really what it is. Although most people were like, well, I'm donating so that I can help other people. No, it's really a ticket to heaven.
Here's another thing that I've seen more and more happen these days. The televangelists that people used to see back in TV in like the 80s and 90s. They're still around, but here's what they've moved to, Derek. They've moved to online platforms.
Yep.
There's a lot of these guys that have Twitter accounts, and they're posting this stuff every day about you need to sow your seed. And if you sow your seed, this is donating money, right? If you sow your seed, then eventually, good things will happen and you'll prosper from this and stuff.
You will reap. Yeah.
And like, oh my goodness, like the comments that you see on some of this stuff. I mean, I tried commenting one time. They blocked me, I think. Yeah. And it's much more prevalent than what people imagine. Like I used to think, the televangelist stuff, that's for older folks. Like that's not, people don't really fall for that anymore. But no, it's just kind of evolved. It's actually changing. Some of those more predatory tactics when it comes to taking people's money. But, your call is originally asking, is it moral to kind of give to a church? I mean, for an atheist, I'd say, if I truly don't believe that what they're saying is true, and if I ultimately believe that, there's harms that come from the beliefs that they have, for me, I can't, right?
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't call it immoral, but I would have a very difficult, say, for example, for me to donate or tithe to a Catholic church who is a known criminal organization, sure. I would have serious problems with that, because a lot of my beliefs are in conflict with what they're doing with that money.
Yeah, exactly.
But local
I'm
churches.
Sorry, I think.
Go ahead.
What's up, Rick?
Oh no, my bad. I guess what I was really asking, I probably asked it the wrong way. I was asking, do you think it's immoral for a pastor to be asking for that when he can easily say?
Okay. Yeah. So our note here said
when he can easily say like, "Hey, well, that's the Old Testament. I don't have to preach that if I don't want it.
Okay.
I can just work."
Yeah. Our note
my
here.
Question is,
Okay. Our note here had said something a bit different, so that's kind of what we were going off of.
Yeah.
So, so a pastor for asking for money. Well, I mean, think about it like this. I mean, if you have to keep. The buildings have costs, right? You got to pay for the electricity. You got to pay for other stuff.
Which that's an offering, right?
Yeah, you got, and so like
versus tithe.
Yeah, and people who might want to give to the church anyway are probably going to do it, but they might want a reminder or a prompt from the church, because that's what they're used for.
There's actually stories of people getting kicked out of the church for not meeting their tithing commitment.
Yeah, and so the tithing commitment stuff, that's little
immoral.
I don't like that.
Man.
That's like a payment plan for like a, you know what I mean? Like it's just not gonna. I don't know.
Definitely.
But I don't. So as a pastor asking for money to help for his organization, I don't think that's because. So here's the thing too, right? Truth Wanted and other shows here. I mean, we have Patreons. Mm-hmm. Of course, all that goes to the organization. At least this one does. And all of them do. They don't. None of the hosts here make any money off of those shows, right? So that's something I could say I can at least avoid. But we do ask for money because we want to help the organization's efforts in what we're doing. And so in that sense, if a pastor truly believes what he believes and what he's doing is right, I don't think it's immoral. But if he knows, right? If he's one of those guys that's like, this is I'm gonna benefit from this.
Well, in no way are we saying that to donate to Truth Wanted is going to affect your immortal soul.
Oh, that's true too. So like we don't do threats.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've thought about many times ever since I became an atheist, just because I mean, when you get out of that religion, you finally say, man, I don't know which religion is right. And then when that evolution and that Big Bang, I mean, which we're not 100% saying that this is what happened. We're saying that the evidence leads to this.
Yeah.
But when that hits, it's like it's just a mind opener.
Yeah.
And
different world.
I don't know where I was going with that exactly. But
different world. Well, Rick, here's what you need to do.
Different world.
Set up your tithing for patreon.com/truthwanted, and you can give as much money as you want per episode. if you're trying to fill that hole in your life,
Are you using your wizarding skills to influence them?
What if I am though, and I don't even realize it? Like I'm just that.
I don't think you're a white wizard no more. I think you're a dark wizard.
Listen, I'm pretty white, dude. I don't know.
Funny.
Rick, thanks for calling, man. Really do appreciate it, and would love to hear from you again sometime.
No problem, man.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you so much for really everything you guys done. Have a good one.
Appreciate it, Rick. Take care. So money and religion happens to coincide a lot more than what.
So this is fun. I'm really enjoying this.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, good.
I've never sat so close to a wizard before.
I don't think I've ever sat this close to a wizard either. To be honest,
I'm not a wizard. Remember, I don't have magical eyes.
I'm talking about myself. Just like I don't know. I got to figure this out. I guess. Some wizards have to train me. Where are my wizard mentors at?
A wizard's got to do what a wizard's got to do.
If there's some wizards that want to come to the ACA and help me hone my skills, like I'm imagining like a Yoda Luke Skywalker situation where I'm just going to be able to force lift some stuff, just perform some real miracles.
Yeah. You will donate to my Patreon.
Well, I will see, and I'll try to be a good wizard. I think that's what it means if I'm a white wizard. I'm doing good stuff, right?
Well, I think you'll do the dab. Or how about the I Dream a Genie?
Oh yeah, doing the I Dream a Genie thing. If I cast spells, I'll make it a dab on people, and that's how you know I'm doing it. Great. I want to go
on December 15th.
Right. We'll figure that out when it happens. I want to go to our next call here. This is Speed of Sound in Minnesota. Hey, Speed of Sound, can you hear us?
I think so. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine. I have a note here saying that you're a spiritual atheist, or you wanted to talk about spiritual atheism?
Spirituality and prayer.
Spirituality and prayer. Okay, go on.
I'm an atheist who prays, and I believe in spirituality. Ooh. And I'm hoping you guys can talk me out of it.
Talk you out of it? So, like, okay.
Are you praying to somebody or something?
Yeah.
No, that's the whole thing. Well, okay, do you want to deal with prayer first?
Yeah, let's talk about prayer first. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, I pray. I don't pray to.
Okay.
I simply pray.
So
it
like...
kind of ties into...
Yeah, just run me down what you're doing. So, like, you sit down by yourself and you start talking?
No.
Okay.
If I have some sort of an issue, something that's bothering me, like I'm embarrassed about something like this phone call, or something where I'm basically upset, or if I'm hanging on to a resentment, I will sit and bring the thing into my mind presently, and then I usually take my hands and I let go of it, and I pray too, and I sort of do this. And sometimes I'll actually verbalize something like, give me guidance or help me with this problem, or what the fuck. I'd say fuck, right? What the fuck? Yeah.
Just can we cuss?
Absolutely.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I would be cussed in a storm if I knew that.
Anyway.
Now, Speed. Do you get any comfort out of this? Does it make you feel better? Do you feel like you've resolved things? Because I mean, if you're having these practices of role playing or verbalizing it, I don't see any problem with that.
Yeah. So when I first was coming out of my religious phase, I guess, like coming out of my religious, because like it doesn't all happen at once if you're deconverting. At least it didn't happen for me. There were still like religious thought processes and almost rituals that I had, and I replaced my prayer time with meditation time, and I don't meditate as much as I used to, but like that was something I definitely did, and I found that to be super helpful, and I didn't have to attribute any supernatural or really even spiritual, if you want to call it that, attributes to it. I could describe it as a physical process of dealing with, anxiety or just general stress, and that seemed to have some real world results. So I didn't need to call that spiritual.
Yeah. Don't beat yourself up, buddy. I mean, we're emotional people. We're emotional beings.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Speed,
actually, I don't beat myself up.
Good.
I basically, I have this whole thing about developing bridge words or stealing our words back for the secular. I have never been religious in my life. Well, my mom tried to convert me when I was 6 years old, but I told her to buzz off by the time I was 8.
Gotcha.
So I've kind of grown up around secular Buddhism, and I've taken some of these I've taken a lot of these words and kind of made them my own. And prayer is one of them. And I actually, I had a sponsor who was probably agnostic, leaning toward belief, an AA sponsor. And he would ask me, who do you pray to? And I kept trying to explain to him that it's not, that basically prayer is not about praying to or praying for anything. It's about self-hypnotizing yourself to let go of a problem.
Yeah.
And what happens with me is when I do this letting go thing, like if I'm embarrassed about something, if I do it about 3 times, the next day I think back and it's like, hell, I forgot all about it because it goes away. And there's actually some pretty good neuroscience behind all of it.
Yes.
But then spirituality is another word that I sort of take back. Spirit originally came from breath, basically. Yeah. And I define spirituality as action without thinking. And that doesn't mean doing dumb shit without forethought. That means basically doing things like dancing. You know, you go and you immerse yourself in a club scene or something with the smoke and the lights, and you dance techno, and that is a spiritual moment.
Hell yeah. I would start describing my practices that way too. When I hit the club, it's for spiritual purposes, man.
Yeah.
When I'm down there.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. No, like
dancing is for.
You're co-opting of this language of prayer and spirituality. I think that's perfect for to do. Like that's totally fine as long as we understand what you're talking.
And that's what it is you're trying to make somebody understand what you're meaning. Like there's some people that I'm really close to, and the only way that I can really relay how close to these people are is I refer to them as my soulmates. I don't believe. I'm not necessarily a believer in the soul, but I do believe that we make these strong connections with people that surpass other connections, and people understand that level of connection just by again co-opting that terminology of soulmate.
Yeah.
We're emotional beings. Our emotions are complicated. Our thought processes are complicated, and so if we're going to label them as spiritual, or if we want internal self-assessments, we call that prayer. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, religious language is metaphorical by nature.
Yeah.
Well, for good and for bad, right? The bad being that you could potentially co-opt these words to convince people of something that they don't actually mean, and kind of tricking people. Like when a lot of other people, not speed of sound, but when a lot of other people use the word spirituality or prayer, they're going to mean it in a different sense in what Speed is saying here. Speed knows exactly what's going on when he's doing these things. He has descriptions of processes. He has at least a modicum of understanding of neuroscience to kind of you have explanations for these things. Whereas other people are going to say, that's the Holy Spirit working in you. That's a demon working in you.
Yeah.
That's the funnel cake you ate last night working in you, which is, you feel like you're having a movement, in your stomach right there. But the point is as long as we're clear on the definitions that we're using, call it prayer. Call it spirituality. Do what you want. Although spirituality, to me, that word is just not useful. It means so many things to so many different people.
I mean, recently, I paid my grandmother's grave a visit, and I sat on her grave and I talked to her. I know that she's not listening. I know that there's nobody there listening, but it felt good to verbalize these emotional feelings, to verbalize that that I missed her, that I loved her, that I still loved her. Now, was there somebody listening? Even to this day, I wish there was. I really do. But it's still, the process of verbalizing this it's therapeutic.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, there's kind of a broader discussion here that basically when religious callers call in and they talk about having a personal experience with God, or they talk about they'll say, "I know there's something." That sort of thing. We all kind of know, we should know what they mean. They're referring to this spiritual feeling.
Yeah.
The easiest way to explain to most secular people what the spiritual feeling is if you listen to Carl Sagan's Blue Dot.
Yes.
Speech.
Yep.
I mean, you feel this immense
every sinner living their lives. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Voice.
Yep.
But all of religion is based on these rituals and these biological feelings. And I'm an anti-theist. I want to see religion go the hell away. so that we can take our words back, redefine them, bring ourselves back to life, live as biological beings, because about 1% of our brain is used for thinking and rationality. The rest of it is feeling shit. You know? And
Yeah.
Well, like going along with what Speed is saying, you know, like the recent full eclipse that occurred in the United States, I would have loved to have seen that, and I would have described that as a spiritual experience because of the emotions it would have evoked. Now, everything that happened with that eclipse can be scientifically explained, but the feeling, the experience, the anticipation, just seeing something that you normally don't see, there's an emotion that it evokes that some may call it, may describe as spiritual, and that's just because that's such a level of heightened anticipation and desire that that's the only way that I could reasonably describe it.
Why religions use eclipses as a symbol for a lot of things, including Christianity. A lot of events that happened in the Bible or are foretold in the Bible are described under the signs of the moon.
Demons love eclipses.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Demons and births of Antichrist and shit.
That stuff too. So, yeah, what people attribute to spirituality can definitely be explained by other ways. I agree. Nothing magical happening there, maybe.
But sometimes my hope is that we can get these people that are saying they're having a personal relationship with God or they're having these feelings and try to get them to kind of put the two things together and let go of the belief part of it because the belief is unnecessary.
Yeah, that's something I definitely had to deconstruct for myself.
I'm always been interested in that term, personal relationship with God, because it always, to me, even when I was a believer, it was always a one-sided relationship.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was a devout Christian. I loved Jesus with all my heart when I was a child. He was my best friend, and it was very trying, to let go of that. It was very difficult, very sad, but very, necessary to progress to where I am today.
Sure.
To the blasphemous son of a bitch that I am today.
There it is. He's earning that explicit tag right there. Any final thoughts, Speed of Sound, before we close out to our next caller?
I remember the church experience from the time I was 6 years old, 8 years old, when my mom was trying to convert me. And I thought my dead relatives were listening to me and watching me at night when I went to bed, which is exactly what I didn't want. It horrified me. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. No, yeah.
Good enough.
Did you ever believe that God was always watching you and it made you nervous to go to the bathroom? Because I was really pee shy.
Not necessarily the bathroom part, just like I can't lie to this person because God is watching me right now.
No, it was peeing with me. I was like super pee shy. And I was like,
I wasn't worried about God.
It was like, Jesus is watching me pee. I can't go.
Well, he's not going to have he designed you that way, so I don't know. You got to come up with explanations.
Does God pee?
I wasn't worried about God. I was worried about Auntie Edith.
I don't think there is a God.
That was horrifying.
I don't think it would be. Anyway, the point is.
Okay.
It's definitely worth having conversations on definitions, right? And so I like what you're doing here, Speed. Keep up the good work. We'd love to hear from you again.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure, take care.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get sound bites for myself.
Sound bites for yourself.
Does God pee?
Does God pee?
Does God go wee-wee?
In the form of Jesus, maybe. If God is Jesus, then yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I don't see any problems with that.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
That was something I wanted as a kid, was because I remember reading the story about Jesus being in the wilderness for 40 days.
Yeah.
And this, in my sincerest of childhood thoughts, I thought, did he smell? Did he have a BO thing going on? Imagine you're in the desert, you're just, or wilderness, wherever. When
I was in church, the preacher was discussing Jesus' genetic makeup and his chromosomes. You know how we have 23 pair?
Shit.
And he was postulating that 23 of his chromosomes were a deity, so they were invisible.
What? Invisible chromosomes?
Uh-huh.
What the heck? I don't even know what that means. Does that mean when the DNA is replicating, you just can't see the other parts of the DNA?
Exactly. He was literally saying that half of the chromosomes were invisible.
What the heck? I want invisible chromosomes. That sounds cool.
Do you think you could be invisible?
I don't know.
Well, what kind of wizard are you if you can't be invisible?
I need to find out. Apparently, I'm a white wizard, so I need to know what that means, and I need to get trained Somebody said I just need a mentor. Like I said, a Yoda, a Gandalf of some kind.
You need a trip to Hogsworth.
Hogsworth?
Hogsworth.
No, we're going to fucking Hogsworth now, dude.
We're gonna go to
That's
Hogmart.
my fucking wizarding school.
You're gonna go to Hogmart behind the Walmart.
Oh my God. Let's go ahead and go to the next call here. I want to get to Glenn in Pennsylvania. Hey, Glenn, you are on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Not too much. Tonight, I wanted to talk about how everything is natural and there's nothing that's supernatural, specifically regarding the watchmaker argument.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and make your case.
Okay, so with the watchmaker argument, most people, I guess, are familiar with it, where someone finds a watch and declares that it was designed, which it's hard to dispute. However, what they overlook, in my opinion, is the fact that the actual designer is natural. So therefore, everything is natural, just like a beehive is natural because it was designed by, but it's designed by bees, and anthills designed by ants, beaver dam created by beavers, bird's nest created by birds. All these things are natural. So you can extend that to this watchmaker argument. A lot of people go with the watch, the soda can, the painting, the building.
Glenn,
all these things are natural.
So, okay, quick counterpoint. Let's say I'm a Christian and I'm saying, well, Glenn, obviously human beings have something supernatural inside us that causes our creativity in all of our design processes. That's why only humans are able to make these intricate things and you don't see it in animals because we have something special in us. We are supernatural.
But I was just speaking about the bee making the beehive.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess...
ants make anthills.
That's true. I guess you could point to some animals that make some...
Watchmakers make watches?
Watchmakers make watches, yeah. That's true.
The flaw that I find with the watchmaker thing is that you're imposing a... artificially made object within a natural environment. For the watchmaker story to work, it would have to be a watch found in a beach made of watches, and so you would have to just like this. What's so special about this watch?
Yeah. There's a couple different ways you can look at it, and yeah, those are some of the examples right there. I think what we always find is that, the processes that we see, or at least the results of what we see, we have natural explanations for, like Glenn was kind of saying. There's nothing about the beehive that you're talking about that couldn't be explained by what we've observed.
Right.
We're not necessarily saying that there's a God that had to design it, where everything that we're seeing around us is contributing to that.
Yeah, Glenn, what would you describe as supernatural or define supernatural as?
Good question.
Well, in this case, it's the theist uses it to describe that the universe had to be designed because of a watch was designed, and that's why I have a problem with that type of supernatural. But I also, just like your caller earlier, I really don't think that that's accurate. That there's certainly better explanations than supernatural in absolutely every case.
Yeah. And here's the other problem too, because we were alluding to this a bit in the previous call, but if there is such a thing as supernatural, and if we can observe anything about it, any even long-term effects, even if it's just like a before and after of a stick in a rock, that's an observation that's within the natural realm that we're attributing supernatural explanations to. So it's affecting the natural realm to some level. It almost doesn't make sense to call something supernatural if it's working in the natural.
And sometimes we may not even have the tools available to detect what this phenomena is.
Sure.
And, fortunately, we have the scientific method, which is involved in hypotheses. And you can speculate based upon what observable data that you have.
Yeah.
Some people may refer to that as supernatural. I mean, there was a time in the history where a rainbow was considered supernatural.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rainbows in the Bible are described as creations of God. And that doesn't mean that God couldn't necessarily work within the natural. But if that's the case, then we still have the problem of figuring out
eclipses.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Supernovas.
Yeah. We'd still have the problem of figuring out, how do we determine if something is supernatural or it comes from supernatural origins if we keep finding it seems to be natural turtles all the way down. Yeah. Right?
Well, we had the early caller who was saying, I believe that I cast out demons. Well, how do you know they were demons? How do you know you have magic? How do you know? How do we know that this stick was?
How do I know I'm not a fucking wizard, Derek? How do I know? I want to know.
I think he was just trying to,
He may have been trying
Get brownie
to
points.
get brownie point. You might be right.
He wanted to meet you in that that park.
Anyway, Glenn, I think that this postulate that all we know is natural, right? This kind of naturalism. I mean, like, it seems to make the most sense. I can't even conceive what the supernatural would be at this point, right?
Yes, and I think everyone should really come to terms with the fact that everything is natural, and then they would get a lot further in their deep thoughts.
Maybe so, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, well, you haven't, I can't say that Bigfoot doesn't exist because I haven't been across the United States and I haven't seen every single forest, every single tree, and it's like, yeah, okay, but like, what's most likely here? Because at the end of the day, we got to make a judgment call.
Yep. Bigfoot.
In order to just organize and operate as people.
And sure, it has a lot to do with what's the most likely scenario, also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah. I believe in Occam's razor. The most simple explanation is usually the most likely. Especially regarding these complex things that are claimed. Religion actually uses a religious razor, which goes as far as having the most complex explanation is correct, which makes absolutely sense.
Yeah.
You brought up a really good point on atheist experience about how religion is co-opting a lot of scientific terms and discoveries and shoehorning it into their own belief system.
Sure.
Which I thought was a really fantastic point to bring up.
Well, yeah. So I guess my point with that was, in the context we were talking about the theories of the Big Bang.
Yeah.
And also just the expansion of the universe in general. And it's like the language that he's using to even describe the processes that we're talking about as far as the expansion itself and what that means for the molecules in the universe, this is all 20th century inventions on some level. Like, this wasn't the language that was being used before this. And the people who wrote those original texts or talking about creation
Dark matter.
It's very obvious they didn't have that conception. And I think to say otherwise, I think is foolish. Yeah. I think you're just saying that, only because, you're retroactively putting something into fit. I mean, if we discovered that, that, I don't know, unicorns are out in the universe somewhere, and that's the result of the Big Bang or something, people would find ways to fit that into the Bible too. It's just it's a never-ending process, and one day you have to figure out, all right, is it more likely that these ancient people somehow had this divine knowledge of these processes, which, by the way, the processes in Genesis do not match up at all with what theories of the Big Bang and stuff say. You can go into in-depth details about the individual days and stuff, but regardless, you got to look at where these things are coming from. You got to see what's going to be more trustworthy. The observations of people who are looking at things for years and years and testing it and trying their best, or the writings of people that we can't verify, that we can't see what they even meant. So it's a whole conversation to have. But great points all around, Glenn. Did you have anything else you want to say before we kind of wrapped up this call here?
Oh, sure. If you have another minute, I just wanted to say that I personally am a strong atheist and would love to see your atheist community have some kind of a strong atheist show. They're all weak atheist shows. I know it's a harder position to defend with the burden of proof and all, but it's a much more interesting and honest and accurate position.
Yeah, so just for those who are unaware, there is a dichotomy between what's called weak atheism and strong atheism. And he's not talking about these guns right here, baby, because he knows who's a strong atheist.
You're a level 2 wizard.
I'm a level 2 wizard, at least. Gotta be at this point. But no, what he's talking about is the scales of atheism, right? Like the Dawkins scale of atheism. What we're saying is it's the difference between saying we lack a belief in God and knowing for sure that there is no God, right? And so that's what Glenn is saying. Glenn, I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying, there has a strong belief that there is no God versus the lack of belief. And that's definitely a conversation that, we could explore. But what's up, Glenn?
Yeah, it's just not 100%, but it's 99.9999 where it can be ruled out kind of situation.
Yeah, and
when you say strong atheism has to do with belief, really the opposite of agnostic would be like Gnostic. That type Gnosticism would be
Right.
a knowing for sure. And I'm not claiming that, but I'm really close to that, as close as you can get to that.
And to be frank with you, I'm pretty close to that as well. I don't know what Derek's at, but like I think we probably feel the same way. I think the reason why we use the terms that we do is because there's constantly always going to be people at the end of the day. They're just like, well, you can't know everything for sure, and it's like, yeah, of course I can't. That doesn't mean it's not going to stop me from having beliefs or assumptions, because like that's just how humans operate.
Yeah,
you know.
And but it's so much different, though, when you think about it. The theists are saying the universe is 6,000 to 10,000 years old, when it's clearly, 14.7, 14.8 billion years old. It's not even close. And that a complex being at the beginning would be more likely than simple things at the beginning. These things aren't even close to the same argument.
Yeah, that's true too. But and sometimes beliefs aren't, as we talk about a lot here, aren't rationally motivated sometimes as well. Or
right, but they should be.
I think so too. And like that's definitely something that we promote here and try to have conversations about. But great observations here, Glenn. Thanks again for calling in. I hope to hear from you again sometime.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, have a great rest of your night here. Yeah, cool conversation.
Biggest
Yeah,
crowd
I
here in
like
the
that a
building.
lot. And it's, we talk about these kind of traps that people kind of put us in our beliefs. It's like, you have to say that there is no God, otherwise you're inconsistent with whatever you say. It's like,
Well, it goes back to my earlier point.
Little impolite.
My atheism is such a small part of, and I've come to the point where I'm not really bothering to argue it anymore, because there's really nothing. Well, I'm not aware of anything that really could convince me otherwise. I'm open to that discussion, but for most part, there's other things that are more important. Whether there is some magic sky daddy in the sky, there's more important things. There's the here and now.
There's some phrase, like I try not to use a lot of that kind of language when I'm on the show here, but the one thing that gets me every time is describing the Bible as a book of desert fables. I think that's
by ancient goat herders.
A book. Well, the ancient goat herders thing is not as accurate, but like the book of desert fables just makes me laugh. I don't know. This is really funny. Makes it sound like something that's not. But anyway, we're kind of wrapping things up on our end here at the show, but that doesn't mean that the party is over. If you want to join us on Discord, the Atheist Community of Austin Discord, if you're listening live, you'll have a link to that in the chat here in a second to come talk to me and my fabulous guest today, Derek Hawke. Derek, thanks
we need
for being on.
we need some Bigfooters out there to call us in.
I want some more Bigfoots. I mean, I
No,
can talk
Bigfooters.
Bigfoot all
Or
day,
big-
man. I love Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Dude, you
Bigfoot
reminded me
exists?
today that the Goat Man exists.
Goat
That was a legend when I was young.
Dogman,
I haven't heard of Dogman.
Dogman, the Rake.
Oh, well, the Rake is kind of freaky.
The Rake?
If you have a creepypasta belief you think is real, tell me about it. I read this. I was joking with Derek. I read a story of a guy who thought he saw a Digimon in real life one time. I would love to talk about whether Digimon.
What the hell's a Digimon? Is that like a Pokemon?
Okay, boomer. I'm just kidding, Derek. No. It's like so it actually started before Pokemon, and Digimon fans will
Bigfooter.
Digimon fans will definitely let you know that was a thing, and that Pokemon stole from
and
Digimon.
for our viewers,
But the show, the games were better than
for viewers. I'm going to give a phrase, and I want to see if anybody can pick it up in the Discord.
Okay,
Goonie Goo Goo.
that's weird. Are you doing some mind control stuff?
Nope. Goonie Goo Goo.
What does that mean?
Well, we're gonna see if we
Oh, okay. All right. So you'll have to tune into the Discord, those who are listening at home to this show. I want to give a big thanks to the crew in the back who helps make this show happen every week. We'll switch to the crew cam here in just a second. Thanks, crew, for all that you do. You're really rad and help make this show happen. I want to give another big thanks again to Derek for being on the show this week. Definitely check out his stuff. Well, where can people find you at,
Goonie Goo
Derek?
Goo.
Where can people find you at?
They can find me on Twitter at KillaHawk1 and also on YouTube, also at KillaHawk1. Please feel free to subscribe, watch, comment, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and as far as finding me, I am ObjectivelyDan. You can follow me on Twitter at ObjectivelyDan. The YouTube channel for this is called Truth Wanted. It's available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever else you find your podcasts. There is a Patreon as well, patreon.com/truth1. If you want to make this show and other programs here at the ACA even better than they already are, please consider donating to that and get your name up here in the credits of the show. And maybe we'll have to do some more Patreon stuff in the future. I don't know. That's something I've been considering for a while. But if you want to contact me personally as well, you can email me at truth@atheist-community.org for inquiries on the show, or just DM me on Twitter. And I cannot be remiss without mentioning our Truth Wanted Facebook page as well. But for now,
What about your crystal ball?
a crystal ball? Man, if someone communicates with me through a crystal ball, sure. If you got it, like, go ahead and do it. I'm down for it. But yeah, we're going to be going on the Atheist Community of Austin Discord right now, which you should definitely check out if you haven't already. So we're going to wrap things up in here. Derek, you got anything else you want to say?
Goody goo goo.
Okay, you're freaking me out, dude. Don't know what that means. I guess I'll find out in a bit.
We'll find out.
Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in this week. Remember to always keep wanting the truth, and I'll see you next time.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.